So magandang umaga, magandang hapon, at magandang gabi sa ating mga viewers dito sa Pilipinas and to all our viewers in the other parts of the world. We hope that everybody is doing well in this pandemic. Ako po si Marga Bellucillo, isa po sa mga advocates ng UnionBank GlobalLinker. So we're very happy na makakasama namin kayo ngayon dahil we prepared something special that can help you with your business. Para sa mga bagong nakasali ngayon, nag-start po kasi yung UnionBank GlobalLinker noong 2018 para maglingkod at magbigay sa ating mga kababayang SMEs. It's basically to help them with their business, to help them grow their businesses. So since then, our niche is to be able to provide solutions, services, educational tools, and access to a global network of SMEs that will help other SMEs in the country. So ngayon, we have over 300,000 SME users globally, and 50,000 of them are here in the Philippines. It is a free digital platform, so libre po ito, guys, that plays a central role in UnionBank's goals to empower MSMEs through different business solutions. So sign up is free at di kailangan ng Union Bank account. So all you have to do is visit www.unionbankgloballinker.com. So to give us the welcoming remarks for today, let me call on our VP for SME segment, Mr. JP Suleiman.
Magandang umaga, magandang hapon, magandang gabi. Gaya sinabi ni Marga kanina, magandang araw sa inyo lahat. To all of our viewers here and outside the Philippines, welcome to another installment of our Project LUCA Enablement Series. We've started Project LUCA in response to what the SMEs need. A lot of them are saying, we need help in understanding how taxation is. We need help in understanding accounting, because more and more of our SMEs are seeing the necessity of doing things right. In fact, Project LUCA, in partnership with Punong Bayan and Arroyo Grant Thornton and other accounting experts in the country, was able to help so many of our members already. And through series like this, we would like to give more and more of the necessary information and help that you need to correct whatever it is that we were doing in the past. Now, pandemic is almost done. They are saying there will be either a social death of the pandemic or there will be a medical death of the pandemic. But this also allows us the opportunity to restart how we do our businesses the right way. Restart how we do our businesses in a form that will allow us to grow further and in a form that will allow us to be more trustworthy for our customers. We are very happy to have Arian today, one of the key people inside Punong Bayan, to share with us more about withholding taxes and things how the SME should do it, right? Now, doing it right is the right way. Tama ba yung sinabi ko? But doing it right enables us to make sure that we remain trustworthy, not just in the eyes of our customer, in the eyes also of our partners, and also in the eyes of the government and the regulators around us. So we do hope that you learned something out of this. We do hope that you can also, and how do you say this? You can really use all the things that Arian is going to be sharing with us. In fact, Punong Bayan is also here to help in other ways that you might need for your accounting needs. Now, without me talking too much longer, I'd like to turn it back over to Marga and to Arian.
Hi, Sir Jape. So thank you for that. Thank you for that very inspiring welcoming remarks. And as you know, this webinar is really for our SMEs to help them. Now, we actually prepared a short video for all of you to know more about UnionBank GlobalLinker. So please refer to the screens and watch this short clip.
SMEs are the backbone of the Philippine economy. UnionBank has laid down the groundwork for creating an ecosystem helping businesses through an integrated user experience connecting key stakeholders in the ecosystem. The learning was steep. To pave way for these learnings, UnionBank started this with Eureka that started on October 18, 2015, the bank's corporate social responsibility project. The objective was to help brick-and-mortar business owners and turn them into brick-and-click business owners. In building that ecosystem, UnionBank GlobalLinker was born. It's an online platform with social networking capabilities that help SMEs manage and grow their businesses.
Business namin kasi po mas marami pong makakakilala ng product namin at mas mapapalawak pa po yung kaalaman ko para mas mapalago yung business namin kasi po marami.
GlobalLinker helps build the community of SMEs and link them to the right markets, suppliers, financiers, and advisors. This in return help in nation building by promoting economic growth.
So there you go. Now, part of our efforts really is to support the community. So, which is why we partnered with DTI to really transform businesses. And so, yung mga stores na brick and mortar nga dati, ngayon may online store na po sila. And it really is the change. Times are really changing right now, and there really is a need to adapt. Which is why in today's session, we will talk about withholding taxes for SMEs. Like what Sir JP said, this is part of the learning section inside UnionBank GlobalLinker called Project LUCA, an accounting help section para sa mga users ng UnionBank GlobalLinker. So this is actually a new format that we are doing today because you can actually rewatch and replay our webinars to remind yourselves on the topic and learnings of our speakers. So, let's get this started. I would like to introduce our speaker for today. She is a manager with the Tax Advisory and Compliance Division of P&A Grant Thornton and has been with them since she started her professional career in 2012. She has gained extensive experience in providing tax compliance, due diligence audits, tax outsourcing services to local and multinational companies, and transfer pricing studies for a number of clients. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Arian Mandak.
Thank you very much, Marga. And ulit magandang araw sa lahat. So today, as mentioned, I will be discussing one of the basic tax compliance requirements, which is medium enterprise man yan, or large businesses. So for this session, we will be covering the overview or the basic concepts of withholding taxes, plus the different types of withholding tax on income payment. So we have the withholding tax on compensation, creditable withholding tax, and final withholding taxes. So let's begin our discussion by first understanding the nature of withholding taxes. So withholding tax is actually, hindi siya a type of tax like income or value-added tax. It is basically just a mode or a method for efficiently collecting taxes that's due to the government. So through the withholding agents, our tax authority or CBIR, they are able to ensure na yung taxes due are collected, which would otherwise be lost or reduced in case of non-filing and non-payment of tax returns. On the part of the withholding tax agent, the taxes that they withhold are actually not their own taxes, but these are tax liabilities of other taxpayers who receive income from them. So it can be yung vendors or suppliers ni withholding agent or yung employees niya. So a question siguro may pop in mind, if this is not my tax, why should I be held liable for ito? So why should I bother knowing what withholding tax is? So since it involves your purchases or yung mga expenses mo, it is important to know that one of the requirements for your expenses to be deductible is that the corresponding withholding taxes should have been withheld and remitted by you to the BIR. Otherwise, yung expense mo, it will be disallowed as deduction. So that's the reason why it's important for withholding tax agents to understand and comply the withholding tax requirements. So aside from the fact that the withholding of taxes helps improve yung cash inflows ng government, it also benefits yung mga taxpayers from whom taxes were withheld. Because in a sense, it provides a convenient manner for them to meet their tax obligations. For example, for employees, yung monthly payroll nila, the taxes due thereon are already withheld and remitted by their employer to the BIR, being si employer yung income payer, so siya yung withholding tax agent. Therefore, by the time na si employee ay magpa-file na ng kanyang annual income tax return at the end of the taxable year, there can either be no more payment to be made, or kung meron man, minimal na lang, since yung portion ng total income tax due niya for the year was already withheld and remitted by his employer. So to better understand lang din the process of withholding taxes. So we have here an illustration. So basically, the buyer or si income payer, siya yung acting withholding tax agent. Prior to making any income payments, si buyer, ang responsibility niya is to determine first whether yung income payment that he or she is about to make is subject to withholding tax or not. Later on, we will dig on the details of this. What are the transactions that are subject to withholding tax and which ones are not? So once determined na ni buyer or ni withholding agent, if yung income payment is subject to withholding, then he will have to compute for the correct amount of the tax that is required to be withheld. And that amount computed shall be deducted from the amount that he or she will pay to the vendor or the supplier. So yung tax na withhold shall be set aside by the withholding agent, and kailangan i-maintain na to in a separate account. So this is due for remittance na to the BIR using appropriate withholding tax return form or withholding tax remittance form. So here in our illustration, it is expanded or creditable withholding tax. So the relevant withholding tax forms are BIR Form 0619E and 1601EQ. So aside from filing and paying yung withholding tax remittance returns, it is also yung responsibility of the withholding agent to furnish or mag-issue ng copy of a certificate of creditable taxes withheld to the income payee. So yung certificate na to, anong purpose niya? It serves as proof that taxes were withheld and remitted to the BIR. So yung certificate na to, gagamitin siya ngayon ni vendor or ni supplier as proof ng mga taxes that he will claim as credits against his annual income tax due by end of the year sa kanyang income tax returns. So now, after complying with these requirements, si buyer or si withholding agent, after niya mag-withhold and i-remit yung appropriate withholding taxes kay BIR, and after niya mag-issue ng certificates of creditable withholding taxes kay income payee, si buyer or si withholding agent may now claim as deductible expense from his in computing his taxable income, yung income payment niya na sinubject niya to withholding taxes. So who are the persons required to withhold? Basically, all juridical and individual taxpayers who made income payments that are subject to withholding taxes. So government offices also, or GOCCs, they're also required to withhold taxes from their purchases, from their local purchases. Who else? Basically, yung persons who have control over payment and who claims the expense. Pwede din yung mga acting on behalf of the withholding agent. Like halimbawa, si entity natin, si business entity natin, yung employee, inutusan natin halimbawa mag-purchase. So si employee is acting on behalf of the employer. So si employee may control ng payment. So upon making payment dun sa income pay o sa vendor, si employee will have to withhold the appropriate withholding taxes. And he will have to issue as well yung certificate of creditable withholding taxes dun sa income payee. Next slide, please. Next. Next slide. So, sino naman ngayon yung mga persons na hindi dapat bini-withholdan? So, hindi pala lahat, no? Hindi lahat ng vendors or suppliers or income pays are subject to withholding. So, there are exempt. So, which, sino sila? We have, of course, yung national government and its instrumentalities, like, for example, si PAGCOR, si BIR, BSP, and DOST. Who else? Those persons under special, exempt from income tax under special or general laws. Ito yung mga PEZA registered entities or yung mga BOI. But only on their registered, on their income earned from their registered activities. So hindi rin lahat ay exempt from income tax. Next slide. We also have yung mga labor, agricultural, or horticultural organizations that are not organized for profit. Also, yung mga general professional partnerships like yung mga law firms, accounting firms, and audit firms. What else? Mga civic league or organization not organized for profit but operated exclusively for promotion and social welfare. Also, yung mga non-stock, non-profit organizations that were operating exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, cultural purposes, and yung mga educational institutions ng government. So we now move to the first type of withholding tax, no, which is withholding tax on compensation. So ito yung mga income ng mga employees natin. So what are the applicable taxes for employees? We have two actually, no. So we have yung graduated rates na 0 to 35%. Yung rate would depend on the taxable income, taxable compensation income ni employee. And we also have yung tinatawag na fringe benefits tax, which is a fixed rate of 35%. This one applies naman only on the benefits provided to employees who are considered managerial or supervisory employees. So ano yung types ng mga fringe benefits na to? No? This includes yung mga housing benefits, yung mga car allowances, mga paid holiday and vacation expenses, yung mga shouldered ni employer para kay employee. Kasi kasama din pati yung mga educational assistance na pinaprovide to the employee themselves or their dependents, no? So, next slide, please. So, ang withholding taxes is, may pina-follow tayo na monthly withholding or withholding tax table. Actually, depende ang computation kung paano ba yung manner of pagpapsweldo natin sa employees natin. Kasi diba, iba-iba naman tayo ng, iba-iba na manner of pagpapasweldo. Merong daily, merong weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. So we have tables applicable for those types of payroll, no? So let's just have an example dun sa semi-monthly. So how do you will see, no, there are 6 columns here. So, yung sa first row, yung compensation range, that pertains to the taxable compensation employee. So, once identified natin magkano yung taxable compensation, titingnan natin ngayon saang range siya mag-fall. So, yun yung makikita natin dito sa compensation range na row, no? So, for example, yung isang employee natin, yung taxable compensation niya is, let's say, 15,000. So, saan siya mag-fall? Doon siya sa column 2. So, yung range is from 10,470 to 16,666. So, paano natin kukomputin yung withholding tax dun niya? So, yung 15,000 niya minus yung 10,417, multiply natin by 20%. So, yun, makocompute natin amount. Yun yung withholding tax due on his taxable compensation for that semi-monthly payroll. So, halimbawa naman, ang taxable compensation is 30,000. So, how do we compute? So, first, merong fixed rate na 1,250. On top of that, any excess dun sa 16,667 or yung 30,000 taxable compensation ni employee minus 16,667, multiply natin siya by 25%. So, yung 25% na yon plus yung 1,250, yun yung total na withholding tax due on the semi-monthly payroll ng employee. So yung withholding tax tables natin, normally we apply that for the months of January hanggang November. By the time na we will prepare na yung ating withholding tax returns for the month of December, what we have to use na as basis ng computing the tax due is yung scheduler rate for annual, yung annual income tax rates na. So ito yung nakikita natin ngayon sa screen. So under the train law, no, which took effect in 2018, ang range ng taxable income is yung first 250,000 is subject to 0%. So basically, kung ang annual taxable compensation income ng employee natin did not exceed 250,000, wala siyang babayarang income taxes. So yung current rate natin ngayon for 2020 is from 0% to 35%. So applicable siya until December 31, 2022. By January 1, 2023 onwards, mag-iiba na ulit yung rate. So mapapansin natin dito sa table, no? So yung sa current natin, after 0%, ang susunod na rate is 20% na. But then by 2023, after 0%, the next rate would be 15% na, in excess of 250,000. But still, for both columns, no, papansin natin, the maximum rate is 35%. Magbabago lang din siya dun sa fixed rate. So, yung sa pinakamataas, no, from 2.41 million by 2023, yung fixed income tax na rate na is 2.2025 million. Next slide, please. So for fringe benefits tax, no, as mentioned earlier, it's a fixed rate of 35%. So ang basis naman natin dito is yung grossed up monetary value ng fringe benefit. So ano ibig sabihin nun? So halimbawa, ang benefit is expenses, personal expenses ng employee na sinushoulder ni employer. Halimbawa, ang worth is 70,000. So si employer, how does he compute the fringe benefits tax? So yung 70,000 niya, i-divide niya yun by 65% to get yung gross up monetary value. And then sa kanya yun i-multiply to 35%. So yung fringe benefits tax na to, although tax siya dun sa benefit ng employee, this can be claimed as deductible expense ni employer kasi si employer actually yung nag-shoulder nung tax expense na yun. So yung 70,000 na benefit na na-receive ng employee, nakukuha niya yun ng buo. Because yung tax due on that benefit is, yun nga, shouldered siya ng employer. So now that we know na kung ano yung mga applicable rates, we should also understand, no, kung ano-ano ba yung mga compensation income na subject to withholding taxes. Alin naman yung hindi. So basically, ang compensation income niya, no, these are all the remuneration na natatanggap ni employee from his employer under an employer-employee relationship. So regardless kung ano man tawag dun sa nare-receive niyang benefits from his employer, pa-honorarium man yan, allowances man yan, commissions man tawag dyan, or bonuses, those are all considered part of the gross compensation income. So, but then not your full gross compensation income will be subject to tax, no? There are exemptions. What are those? So we have, of course, yung 13th month pay natin plus other bonuses. Pero meron siyang threshold. Only bonuses or 13th month pay amounting to 90,000 yung exempt. Any excess of that is considered taxable na. What else? So yung compensation during the year which did not exceed 250,000. Di ba kanina sa table na mention natin, if 250,000 yung na-earn annual compensation income, it's subject to 0%. So basically, wala kang babayarang income tax. What else? Compensation income earned by minimum wage earners. So, pertaining lang siya dun sa mga statutory minimum wage and holiday pay, OT pay, and night shift differential pay and hazard pay. If si minimum wage earner naka-receive pa siya other than that, pwedeng ma-subject na yun sa tax. So, depende pa rin, no, kung mag-exceed ba siya 250,000 or pasok ba siya dun sa 90,000 exempt bonuses. What else? We also have yung de minimis benefits. So later, i-discuss natin in detail. Ano yung de minimis benefits na tinatawag? And also yung mga contributions ni employee for SSS, PHIC, and HDMF or yung pag-ibig. So, dito sa SSS, PhilHealth and Pag-ibig contributions, no, ang importanteng i-note natin dito na ang exempt lang is yung mga mandatory. Kasi diba alam natin, may mga voluntary contributions dito. Like for example, si Pag-ibig, merong tinatawag niya Modified Pag-ibig 2. Yun is ano siya, voluntary or optional siya dun sa part ng tao kung gusto niyang mag-contribute doon. So any contributions niyo doon, those are considered as taxable. So hindi siya exempt. Only yung mga mandatory contributions are considered exempt. So next slide please. So yun nga, the minimum benefits, no? So basically itong the minimum benefits na to is mga benefits na pinoprovide ni employer sa employee niya to promote goodwill, contentment, or efficiency. And normally, yung amounts nito is, kasi tinatawag na de minimis, maliit lang. Very insignificant or immaterial lang yung amounts. And since yung exemption ng de minimis benefits from tax is based na on the premise na yung amount given is immaterial lang or insignificant, merong mga sinet na ceiling amounts or threshold under the tax rules for every type ng de minimis benefits. So let's talk about what these de minimis benefits are and ano-ano yung corresponding thresholds. So first, we have yung monetized and used vacation leave credits of private employees not exceeding 10 days during the year. So if part ng benefit ni employee is to may mga BL credits siya during the year na hindi niya nagamit and pwede siyang ma-monetize, only those pertaining dun sa 10 days, first 10 days, yun ay consider the minimum benefits. Any excess of that, hindi naman siya automatically taxable, no? Pwede pa rin siyang maging non-taxable if yung excess na yon, if we total that together with yung 13th month pay niya and other bonuses, hindi mag-exceed to 19,000, pwede yung excess na yon will be considered still as non-taxable. What else? Dito naman on the part of government officials and employees, no? So sa kanila, walang limit. So kahit more than 10 days yan, considered as the minimum benefits. And also mapapansin nyo, no, i-compare nyo siya with private employees. Sa government officials, even the unused sick leave credits that are monetized are considered the minimum benefits. For private employees, hindi siya applicable. So, if monetized ang unused sick leave credits ng mga private employees, kahit less than 10 days sabihin natin, that's considered a taxable compensation income. What else? Medical cash allowances to dependents not exceeding 1,500 per employee per semester o kaya 250 pesos per month. You also have yung rice subsidy of 2,000 pesos if given siya in cash or pwede rin siyang given in kind, one sack of 50 kilogram, pero dapat the amount is not exceeding still 2,000 pesos per month. We also have uniform and clothing allowance not exceeding 6,000 pesos per annum. So this could be either in the form of cash or in kind, yung ready to wear na uniforms or clothing for employees. What else? We also have yung actual medical assistance not exceeding 10,000 per year. So itong medical assistance na to, there's a requirement here na dapat supported siya by official receipts or invoices under the name ni employee para to make sure na talagang yung benefit was used by the employee himself. So it should not be under the name ng employer. We also have yung laundry allowances not exceeding 300 pesos per month. Achievement awards like halimbawa, nagbibigay si employer ng mga loyalty awards, ganyan. But this one, the requirement is for it to be considered as non-taxable de minimis benefit. It has to be provided in a tangible personal property. So hindi pwedeng cash. So kapag cash or gift certificate yung provide, even if hindi siya exceeding 10,000 per year, it's considered already as taxable compensation income. What else? Gifts given during Christmas and major anniversary celebrations, not exceeding 5,000 per employee per annum. So itong gifts na to, it can be in the form of cash naman siya or gift certificates. We also have yung daily meal allowance for overtime work or night graveyard shift, but the amount should not exceed 25% of the basic wage on a per region basis. And lastly, we have yung benefits received by employees under a collective bargaining agreement. And any other productivity incentive schemes, the amount should not exceed 10,000 pesos per employee per taxable year. So sa part ni employer or the withholding agent, ano yung mga kailangan niyang tandaan pagdating sa pag-grant ng mga de minimis benefits? So una sa lahat, no, hindi pwede yung mag-aggregate tayo na parang sabihin natin. Halimbawa, sa kontrata ng employee natin, nakalagay doon, part of your benefits is the minimum benefits in the total amount of 25,000 per year. Tapos nakalagay lang doon yung 25,000 is inclusive of medical, clothing, laundry, rice subsidy, etc. So hindi siya allowed, no? Kailangan naka-breakdown yung 25,000 yun. Magkano do sa 25,000 yung for medical allowance, magkano doon yung for clothing or laundry allowance. Kasi if we aggregate yung values, no, nade-defeat yung purpose of setting a ceiling amount or threshold for each benefit. So paano kung yung actual medical pala, yung 25,000 pala, 15,000 pala doon yung ginamit for actual medical. So, di ba, hindi mo siya matitrace kung nag-exceed na ba or hindi sa threshold. So, hindi allowed ang pag-aggregate ng values for the minimum benefits. What else? So, yung kanina, yung present ko na mga the minimum benefits, yun lang yung pwedeng i-consider as the minimum benefits. Actually, this rule, prior to this, no, pwedeng i-consider yung other benefits na binibigay ni employer kay employee. Basta yung amount is insignificant or immaterial. Halimbawa, nito yung mga bereavement assistance, no, kapag kunyari, namatayan yung employee ng family members or yung mismo si employee namatay, then nagpo-provide ng bereavement assistance sa family. So kung minimal lang yung amount before, it would be considered as the minimum benefits. But then, under the time of Commissioner Kim Menares, nilimit na lang yung mga minimum benefits dun sa list sa regulations. So if it's not part of the minimum benefits listed or enumerated, hindi siya pwedeng i-consider as non-taxable the minimum benefits, regardless kung insignificant yung amount. So regarding dun sa tax implication, no, of the minimum benefits, again, rule number 1, if the amount is within the set threshold or ceiling for the minimum benefits, it will not be subject to fringe benefits tax or income tax or withholding tax on compensation, regardless kung managerial or rank and file yung employee na naka-receive. Second rule is that if nag-exceed yung the minimum benefit dun sa ceiling or sa threshold, hindi siya automatic considered as taxable, as I mentioned kanina, no? Since, di ba merong exempt na 13th month pay and other bonuses amounting to 90,000 per year, if yung 13th month pay or other bonuses na halimbawa na-receive ni employee, hindi pa siya papalo ng 90,000, and naka-receive siya ng de minimis benefits, tapos nag-exceed sa ceiling, any excess nung sa de minimis na yon, pwede pa nang i-add dun sa 90,000 to be considered as non-taxable. What if naman nag-exceed na sa 90,000? So sobra na sa threshold, sa de minimis threshold, sobra pa dun sa exempt na 90,000 for 13th month pay and other bonuses. Ano yung treatment? So regardless kung managerial or supervisory or rank and file yung employee na naka-receive ng benefit, it will be subject to withholding tax on compensation. So we now move to minimum wage earners, no? So ano kaya yung peculiar for minimum wage earners na employees? So we know, no, na ang mga minimum wage earners, sila yung mga ang nare-receive lang nila na salaries is not exceeding dun sa statutory minimum wage na siniset ng Regional Tripartite Wage and Productivity Board. So for minimum wage earners, no, pagdating dun sa nare-receive nila na basic minimum wage, yung holiday and overtime pay nila, and night differential or hazard pay, lahat yon is considered as exempt from income tax. So even if halimbawa yung total ng mga to pag kinompute for the whole year is nag-exceed ng 250,000, still hindi siya subject to income tax or withholding tax on compensation. So under the train law, no, only yung mga additional compensation income items na nare-receive ng MWE, yun lang yung pwedeng i-subject to withholding tax on compensation or income tax. So let's have an example, no? So dito sa table natin, so yung sa first row, halimbawa si minimum wage earner, ang na-receive niya is yung statutory minimum wage, holiday overtime, hazard, and night shift differential pay. On top of that, meron din siyang na-receive na de minimis benefits, but within the limit siya. Also, let's say naka-receive din siya ng other bonuses, pero hindi rin nag-exceed sa 90,000. So, ano yung magiging treatment dun sa total compensation income na na-receive ni minimum wage earner? So, since hindi nag-exceed dun sa threshold, yung mga other benefits na na-receive ni employee, yung total earnings na during the year is considered tax-exempt. Sa second row, sa second example naman natin, ano yung difference niya sa una? Yung de minimis benefits niya is nag-exceed sa limit. Tapos yung other benefits, let's say may other bonuses or allowances din siya na na-receive, which is over 90,000 na dun sa annual ceiling. Ang treatment would be, pagdating dun sa SMW, holiday pay, overtime, na hazard and night shift differential, still tax-exempt siya. Ang mako-consider lang as taxable is yung mga de minimis benefits beyond limit and yung mga nag-exceed na bonuses dun sa 90,000. But then again, you have to consider kung yung amount na yun ba mag-exceed mo siya to 250,000 or hindi. Kasi kung hindi siya mag-exceed sa 250,000, pwedeng wala pa ring tax na babayaran si minimum wage earner. And then dun sa last example, no, so, si minimum wage earner, naka-receive siya ng, aside dun sa statutory minimum wage and yung holiday, hazard, overtime, and night shift differential pay, he received the mini benefits, let's say, within ceiling amounts din. Pero other than that, he received other types of income from his employer, no? Like, let's say, may commission plus other taxable allowances. Halimbawa, binibigyan pala siya ng transportation allowance ng employee niya. So, ano yung treatment? Again, pagdating sa mga statutory minimum wage and yung mga the minimis benefits that's within the ceiling or threshold amount, it's considered exempt from tax. What is taxable only would be yung commission income niya and other taxable allowances. But then again, check the amount, total amount. If it's not exceeding 250,000 for the year, it can still be exempt or walang income tax na babayaran si minimum wage earner. So let's now move on dun sa reportorial requirements. So after knowing ano ba yung mga taxable compensation items, ano ba yung non-taxable, ano ba yung applicable na withholding tax rates, alamin naman natin ngayon. So anong form yung isasubmit ko sa BIR para i-remit yung mga taxes ng employees na winidhold ko. So for withholding tax on compensation, we have monthly and annual filing. So for the monthly remittance form, we have yung BIR form number 1601C. So kailan siya due? Depende kung anong type of tax filer ka. Kung manual tax filer ka, filing mo or remittance mo ng 1601C or withholding tax on compensation falls due on the 10th day of the following month. So let's say, for example, for the month of October, yung withholding tax due on compensation ng employees mo for October will be due for remittance to the BIR on the 10th day, so November 10. Kapag EFPS filer ka naman, itong mga EFPS filer na to, nire-register siya with the BIR, may mga documentary requirements na kailangan isubmit dito, no? So yung EFPS system, you can access to sa BIR website and meron siyang required na account ID, plus kailangan mo rin i-link to doon sa bank accounts mo kasi magiging online din yung payment. So online yung filing, online din yung payment. So kailan naman due ang filing and payment ng 1601C if EFPS filer ka? So depende doon sa classification or ng business registration mo, no? So pwedeng 11 to 15th day ka mag-file. So ang payment naman, so regardless kung anong group sa staggered filing ng EFPS ka magpo-fall, ang timing of payment mo would always be on the 15th. So for example, group E ka, So kapag Group E kasi, you need to file your withholding tax and compensation return on the 11th day. But then the payment, you can make it until the 15th day of the following month. So yun yung sa monthly withholding tax remittance form. Ano naman yung annual compliance requirements? So pagdating ng annual, no, lahat ng remittances na binayaran mo sa BIR for the year from January to December, isa-summarize mo siya in the form called yung BIR form number 1604C. So basically lahat ng withholding tax remittance returns monthly, lahat ng amounts ng taxes due thereon, isa-summarize mo lang siya from January to December. Plus any penalties, kung may binayaran kang penalties, yun yung i-report natin dun sa 1604C. In addition dun sa mismong form, required ka din i-prepare yung tinatawag na alphabetical list of employees. Bale, ito lahat nung list ng names ng mga employees na naka-receive ng compensation income from you for the year. And naka-breakdown doon yung details ng gross compensation income earned niya during the year. Kung ano yung taxable, ano yung non-taxable, magkano din yung withhold na taxes sa kanya during the year. So yung alphabetical list of employees, it's in the form of a DAT file. Pwede mo siyang i-prepare using an Excel. May template para dyan. Or you can also use yung data entry module, which you can download from the BIR website. So, kailan naman pinafile yung 1604C and yung alphabetical list of employees? Sabay siyang pinafile, no? So, yung 1604C, January 31, regardless kung manual filer ka or EFES filer. Yung alphabetical list of employees, sinasubmit siya via email to e-submission@bir.gov.ph. So, aside dun sa 1604C and 1601C na returns na pinafile ni employer, meron din siyang kailangan i-prepare na another form, BIR form, which is yung tinatawag na Certificate of Compensation Payment or yung tax withheld or yung BIR form 2316. So, ito yung anong nilalaman nito? Bale, naka-breakdown dito lahat ng compensation income na na-receive ng employee from the employer. Magkano yung taxable, magkano yung non-taxable, and magkano yung tax na withhold during the year kay employee. So, kailan siya kailangan i-provide ni employer sa employee? So, kailangan on or before January 31, nakapag-provide na si employer kay employee ng copy ng 2316. And pinaprepare to in 3 copies. So, yung first copy nun is mapupunta kay employee. Then, yung second copy is copy ni employer. And then, yung third copy, kailangan yun is-submit ni employer kay BIR. It should not be not later than February 28 of the following year. So, if hindi makapag-file si employer nung 2316 kay BIR, there's a penalty for non-submission, no? It's 1,000 pesos for each failure. Pero it should not exceed 25,000 pesos per the year. So, maximum of 25. So, halimbawa, ang total number of employees ni employer is mga nasa 30 and lahat yun, halimbawa, hindi niya na-submit yung 2316 kay BIR. Ang penalty would be a maximum only of 25,000 pesos. So, under the train law, no, merong additional compliance requirements, which is yung submission of a certified list of employees qualified for substituted filing. So, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng substituted filing, no? It means na yung filing ni employer ng BIR Form 2316 kay BIR is already equivalent to the filing ng annual income tax return ni employee. So, ibig sabihin, si employee, hindi na niya kailangan mag-file ng sarili niyang individual annual income tax return. Yung 2316 or yung certificate ng proof of taxes withheld on his compensation income na sinubmit ni employer kay BIR would already suffice. Yun na yung equivalent na dun sa annual ITR niya for the year. However, it should be noted no, na hindi lahat ng employee would qualify for substituted filing. So, only those employees who receive purely compensation income, regardless of the amount during the taxable year, sila yung pwedeng mag-qualify for substituted filing. plus yung mga employee who received income from only one employer in the Philippines during the year. So kung halimbawa, yung employee mo pala is bagong hire siya during the year and may previous employer siya, hindi siya magka-qualify for substituted filing. So employee na yon, kailangan niya mag-file ng sarili niyang annual income tax return. So bale, isi-summarize niya lang yung 2316 na na-receive niya from his previous employer plus yung 2316 na na-receive niya sa current employer na during the year. What else? Another requirement para mag-qualify yung employee sa substituted filing is that dapat yung amount of tax na withhold sa kanya ng employer niya is mag-i-equal dun sa annual income tax due niya for the year. So kung hindi, kailangan mag-file ni employee ng sarili niyang annual income tax return para bayaran yung any income tax na hindi na-cover nung na-withhold na taxes ng employer. So when is this submitted? Also not later than February 28 of the succeeding year. We now move din sa creditable or expanded withholding tax. No? So kung kanina yung income payee natin na subject to withholding tax or employees, sa creditable withholding tax or expanded withholding tax naman, ang income payee dito are normally yung ating mga vendors or suppliers of goods or services. So for creditable withholding tax, it is important to note, no, kailan ka ba dapat nagwi-withhold? So ang rule is that it is up the time na nagbayad ka na or inakro mo na yung expense mo, yung purchase mo, whichever comes first. So halimbawa, naka-receive ka na ng billing mo from your supplier and ni-record mo na siya sa libro. Upon recording mo ng expense na yon, kailangan mag-recognize ka na ng withholding. Let's say, for example, natapos yung buwan na since na-receive mo yung invoice or yung billing, hindi mo pa siya nababayaran. The following month, kailangan mo nang i-remit yung corresponding withholding tax due doon kay BIR. So, again, the timing of withholding is at the time na binayaran mo siya or inaccrue mo yung expense or asset, whichever comes first. So what are the types of income payments na subject to creditable or expanded withholding tax? So we have yung professional fees or yung mga talent fees, mga payments natin to halimbawa mga individual accountants, mga engineers, mga artists. So yung withholding tax rate would depend if the payee is an individual or a juridical entity. So dun muna tayo sa individual, no? So yung tax rate would depend on the gross receipts or gross earnings ng individual during the year. If less than or equal to 3 million pesos yung annual gross receipts niya, yung applicable withholding tax rate would be 5%. Pero pag nag-exceed na sa 3 million for the year, ang applicable withholding tax rate naman would be 10%. So question, no, paano mo kaya malalaman kung magkano na yung gross receipts ng professional income earner? So merong requirement under the tax regulations na dapat si income payer nagpo-provide siya ng sworn declaration of his gross income or gross receipts during the year sa withholding agent. So yun yung magiging basis ni withholding agent kung anong rate yung i-apply niya sa income payment niya dun sa professionals. So we have here a parang diagram, no, para mas madali nating maintindihan or parang guide natin kung ano ba yung magiging withholding tax treatment or withholding tax rate applicable to professional income payments to individuals. Next slide, please. So yan. So if the pay of the professional income is an individual and let's say yung gross receipts niya during the year is less than or equal to 250,000 pesos. If halimbawa, si withholding agent lang yung kliyente ni individual professional income payer, payee, nakapag-provide naman si professional ng sworn declaration, ang applicable rate is 0%. Bale, hindi kailangan mag-withhold ni client kasi nga less than 250,000 naman yung gross receipts, which is kanina nakita natin sa table, it's subject to 0%, no? Plus, nakapag-comply din si professional dun sa requirement na mag-provide ng sworn declaration of his gross receipts or income for the year. But in case hindi siya nakapag-provide, regardless kung less than 250,000 lang yung gross receipts niya for the year, and regardless kung isa lang din yung client niya during the year, no? Kasi di ba, madali mo lang ma-identify, isa lang may kliyente mo, tapos less than 250,000 pa yung nare-receive mo from him. But then, if hindi nakapag-comply si professional income payer or income payee dun sa requirement to issue a sworn declaration, isa-subject siya to either 5% or 10% nung kanyang client. And then next one is, if the gross receipts is less than or equal to 3 million pesos, it would depend kung VAT registered or non-VAT registered si professional income payee. So if non-VAT registered siya and nakapag-comply siya dun sa requirement to provide a sworn declaration, the applicable withholding tax rate is 5%. But then pag wala siyang na-provide na sworn declaration, the tax rate applicable is 10%. Kapag VAT registered naman siya, automatically 10%. Whether mag-provide pa siya or hindi ng sworn declaration. And then lastly, no, kapag nag-exceed na sa 3 million yung gross receipts, 10 million yung 10% na yung applicable withholding tax rate. So that's for the individual professional income payees. What about kapag juridical entities, yung professional income payee? So iba yung threshold amount, no? So kung kanina sa individuals is 3 million, for juridical persons, it's 720,000 pesos per year. So if less than or equal to 720, it's 10%. And kapag more than naman 720,000, it's 15%. So kapag juridical person, mas mataas din yung withholding tax rates, no? Kanina for individuals, it's 5% and 10%. So sa juridical persons, it's 10% or 15%. So let's have another illustration, no? So, paano ma-determine ni withholding agent kung ano yung appropriate na withholding tax rate sa professional income payments niya to juridical persons? So, if the gross receipts is less than or equal to 720,000 pesos and the professional income payee was able to provide a sworn declaration, the applicable withholding tax rate is 10%. Pero kung walang sworn declaration, always i-apply yung higher rate. So, for juridical persons, it's 15%. If ang gross receipts naman is 720,000, regardless na yun kung may sworn declaration or wala, the applicable withholding tax rate would be yung higher rate of 15%. So we move on to another type of income payment that's subject to withholding tax. So we have yung rentals, no? So yung mga rentals ng mga real properties, mga land, mga building, personal properties also, pero may threshold for personal properties, like halimbawa yung mga machineries. Ang subject lang to withholding if yung gross rental mo for the year is nag-exceed ng 10,000. Pag hindi umabot siya ng 10,000, you don't need to withhold 5% on the rentals. What else? Yung mga rental ng poles, satellites, transmission facilities, yung mga sa billboards for advertising. So, ano yung timing of withholding on rentals? So, depende sa type of rental payments, no? So, di ba, normally we have mga prepaid rentals or advanced rentals. So, kanina sabi natin, as a general rule, the timing of withholding is upon payment or accrual of the expense, whichever comes first. So, dun sa prepaid rentals, at the time of payment mo sa lessor, kailangan mag-withhold ka na dun sa prepaid rentals mo sa kanya. With regard naman dun sa regular or rental payments, again, upon payment or accrual, whichever comes first. So sa security deposits, it depends if refundable or non-refundable siya. Kung refundable yung security deposit, it won't be subject to withholding. Kapag non-refundable naman siya, so income na siya agad nung lessor, at the time na binayaran mo yon, kailangan mo na rin mag-withhold nung corresponding tax of 5%. So yung real property taxes, if shoulder siya ni lessee, mako-consider siya as part ng rental payments, which is also subject to withholding tax. Another type of income payment that's subject to withholding tax is yung mga payments to contractors, no? So for income payments to contractors, the applicable withholding tax rate is 2%. So ano-ano itong mga contractors na to? We have mga engineering, building contractors, mga specialty contractors, plus meron din other contractors. So ano yung halimbawa niya? Mga demolition, salvage work contractors, operators of dockyards, persons engaged in installation of water system and gas or electric light, heat or power, yung mga operators ng warehousing, freight forwarders, yung mga printers or bookbinders. Halimbawa, magpapakustomize ka ng letterhead for your business. So considered yun as payments to contractors, yung babayad mo sa kanila. What else? Messengerial, janitorial, or yung mga security agencies. Also, yung mga persons engaged in sale of computer services. So, we have there yung mga computer programmers, mga software program developers or designers, mga internet service providers, they are considered contractors, no? So, ano yung mga kailangan mong tandaan pagdating sa income payments to certain contractors? For security agencies, no, normally kapag nagbibill si security agency sa atin, may dalawang klase ng billings yan. So, yung agency fee plus yung salary ng guards. So, for withholding tax purposes, ang kailangan lang nating withholdan doon is kung ano yung income ni security agency, which is yung agency fee. Yung salaries ng guards is actually subject siya to withholding tax on compensation. And that is yung liability na ng security agency. But then, we have to also check yung documentation or yung ini-issuing documents ni security agency sa atin. So supposedly si security agency, ang i-issue niya for the security agency fee is VAT official receipt, whereas yung sa portion naman ng guard salary, it should be a non-VAT acknowledgement receipt. Kasi kapag ang nangyari is, kapag parehas na VAT OR ni security agency yung in-issue niya for the agency fee and the guard salary, mako-consider siya as income ng buo ni security agency, which is dapat sinobject to withholding tax ng buo ni income payer. What else? For transportation contractors naman, no, in case of rentals of vehicles, ang treatment is kapag may kasamang chauffeur or driver, it's considered as payment to contractor. So subject siya to 2%. Pero kapag purely rental lang siya ng vehicle, it is considered as rental na subject to 5% withholding tax. Another type of income payment is subject to withholding tax is yung mga purchases from local or resident regular supplier of goods and services ng mga top withholding agents. So for purchases of goods, it's subject to 1%. If purchase of service, subject siya to 2%. Take note na this withholding tax requirement applies only kung top withholding agent tayo. So, hindi lahat ng taxpayers is considered as top withholding agent. Sino-sino lang yung considered as top withholding agent or TWA. So, sila yung mga na-classify and notified through letter ng Commissioner of Bureau of Internal Revenue. So, sila yung mga large taxpayers, yung top 20,000 private corporations, and mga top 5,000 individuals. Kasama din dyan yung mga periodically na notify as medium taxpayers or those under the Taxpayer Account Management Program. So, yung complete list of top withholding agents, pinopost sila dun sa BIR website. So any updates to the list, no, like inclusion of new TWA or kunwari merong ma-exclude or ma-delist na TWA, these are all published in a newspaper of general circulation and posted as well in the BIR website. So important sa mga income payers, sa mga withholding agents, no, to check from time to time if kasama na ba sila dun sa considered as top withholding agent. Kasi if kasali na sila doon, required na rin sila mag-withhold sa lahat ng purchases nila ng goods and services at 1% and 2% respectively. So for TWAs, no, it is also important to note na kailangan yung withholdan natin ng 1% or 2% are yung mga considered as regular supplier natin. So ano ba yung sinasabing regular supplier? kapag daw nakabili ka na or nakipag-transact ka na sa kanya for at least 6. So from the very first time na nag-purchase ka sa kanya, so kailangan alamin mo kung naka-anim ka na bang transaction, regardless yun kung anong period, kung anong year. Basta a total of 6 transactions, considered na siya as regular supplier mo. Pagdating naman sa casual supplier or yung mga one-time lang nating suppliers or vendors, ang requirement is kailangan mag-exceed siya to 10,000 para ma-consider natin as subject siya to withholding tax of either 1% or 2%. Depende kung goods or service yung pinurchase natin sa kanya. Otherwise, if hindi siya mag-exceed to 10,000, it's not subject to withholding tax. So for creditable or expanded withholding tax, ano yung mga reportorial requirements? So we also have, kagaya ni compensation, no? We have monthly and annual. Pero kay creditable withholding tax, meron ding quarterly returns. So yung monthly remittance returns, ito yung 0619E. So kailan siya pina-file? If manual filer, every 10th day of the following month. If EFPS naman, 11 to 15. Again, ang payment, kapag manual filer ka, is you pay as you file. So filing and payment is done on the 10th day. Kapag EFPS, ang filing, it can be staggered from 11 to 15, depende dun sa group or classification mo under the staggered filing. And the payment is due on the 15th day. So yung quarterly returns naman, ito naman yung 1601EQ. So yung 0619E, ipa-file mo siya dun sa first 2 months of the quarter. Pagdating nung third month or yung mismong quarter, ang ipa-file mo na is yung 1601EQ. Bale, yun yung total lang income payments mo subject to withholding tax from the whole quarter na. So summary na siya. So unlike dun sa monthly, pagdating ng quarterly returns filing mo, meron ka ding sinasubmit na attachment, which is yung quarterly alpha list of income payees. Yung alpha list of income payees na to, ito lahat yung list of names ng mga suppliers or vendors or yung income payees mo na sinobject mo yung income payment mo sa kanila to withholding taxes. So para siyang yung alpha list no, sa employees, you also submit it via email. Whereas yung 1601EQ, yung normal return filing. So kung manual filer ka, you submit it with the RDO kung saan ka registered. Kapag EFPS, through EFPS ang filing natin. So kapag dating sa quarterly, parehas na ng deadline both for manual and EFPS filer. So it's on the last day of the month following the close of the taxable quarter. Kasabay din yun nung payment. So sabay filing and payment for quarterly expanded withholding tax returns. Then pagdating sa annual, so ang form na gagamitan naman natin for creditable or expanded withholding tax is yung 1604E. So para siyang yung 1604C na discuss natin kanina, wherein summary lang siya nung total withholding tax remittances made during the year. So say expanded, since meron siyang quarterly, yun yung isa-summarize natin sa 1604E, yung quarterly remittances na lang. So meron ding required attachment sa 1604E, yung annual naman to, annual alpha list of income payees which are subjected or exempt from income tax. So dalawang klase siya. Yung sa quarterly, ang alpha list natin consists only of income payees that were subjected to withholding tax. Pagdating sa annual, may additional alpha list ka pang i-prepare, which is yung mga income payees mo naman na exempt from income tax. Ano yung example ng mga yun? Yung mga GPP and mga payments to local purchase. Yung mga local purchases mo of goods or service if hindi ka naman top withholding agent. So, kailan ang filing due date? So, regardless kung manual filer or EFPS filer, ang 1604E and yung alpha list of income payees is due for submission on March 1. So, dito, since summary lang siya ng remittances, wala na tayong babayaran. Filing na lang siya. So, we now move on dun sa last type of withholding tax, which is yung final withholding taxes. So, bakit siya considered as final withholding? Bakit siya tinawag na final withholding tax? Kasi yung tax na i-withhold mo from the income payment na ginawa mo, yun na yung total tax, income tax due para dun sa payment na yun. Unlike dun sa creditable or expanded withholding tax na kakadiscuss ko lang, hindi pa siya yung total tax due nung income payment. Parang portion lang siya. Kumbaga parang advance remittance lang siya dun sa magiging total tax due nung income payee. Pagdating sa final tax, whatever yung taxes withheld, yun na yun. So wala nang additional taxes pa na babayaran yung income payee. So ano yung income payments na subject to final tax? Mostly ito yung mga passive income like interest, mga royalties, prizes, winnings, and dividends. Pagdating sa non-residents, no, hindi lang yung passive income, it may also include yung mga active income nila. So let's check ano yung mga applicable withholding tax rates for final withholding tax rates for income subject to FWT. So for bank deposits, no, it's subject to 20%. Pag foreign currency deposits, it's 15%. This is the updated withholding tax rate under the train law. What else? For prizes and winnings naman, under the train law, no, in excess of 10,000, subject siya to 20%. So halimbawa, nanalo ka sa loto. Kano ba prices sa loto ngayon? 100 million. Kunyari, 200 million yung napanalunan mo. Yung first 10,000 doon is exempt. The rest is subject to final withholding tax of 20%. Pagdating naman sa payments, income payments, halimbawa we have suppliers which are considered mga non-residents. Pwedeng non-resident individual or non-resident foreign corporation. So generally, yung income payments natin sa kanila on their Philippine sourced income is subject to final tax rate of 25% kapag individual and then 30% kapag juridical entity. So ano-anong klase ng Philippine sourced income yung subject to final withholding tax for the non-residents. So we have yung mga business profits, no? So these are yung mga income derived from performance of services, sale of goods, o kaya lease of properties. So ang general rule is before you subject the income payments to non-residents to final withholding tax, you have to consider if meron bang permanent establishment sa Philippines yung non-resident income payee. So ano yung sinasabing permanent establishment? It's a fixed place of business through which yung non-resident is engaging in trade or business. So pwede siyang branch, office, or warehouse or factory, o kaya sales outlet in the Philippines. Kasi if hindi ma-establish na may PE sa Philippines, si non-resident, yung income payee na babayaran natin sa kanila will not be subject to final withholding tax. So only those income earned that is attributable to the PE ng non-resident will be considered as taxable sa Philippines, hence subject to final withholding tax. So under reportorial requirements naman, ano yung returns na kailangan natin i-familiarize for final withholding taxes? So we have, same with expanded withholding tax or yung creditable withholding tax, merong monthly, quarterly, and annual filing for 1601F. For final withholding tax. So also yung monthly remittances using 0619F. Pag manual filer, it's 10th day of the month. Filing and payment, sabay siya. If EFPS filer naman siya, it's staggered, again, depending on the classification or kung saan group under the staggered filing magpo-fall si taxpayer. So it can be on the 11th or 15th day yung filing. The payment falls due on the 15th day. Yung quarterly naman is same with 1601 EQ or yung sa expanded, it's filed every last day of the month following the close of the quarter. Plus, in addition dun sa return, kailangan din i-submit yung quarterly alpha list of income payees na sinobject natin to final withholding tax. And lastly, we also have annual information return for final withholding tax or yung 1604F. So again, this is just a summary of all the remittances made during the year, plus yung alpha list of income payees na sinobject to final withholding tax. Ang deadline naman for this is January 31 of the following year for both manual filer and EFPS filers. So that ends my presentation. I hope you learned something or at least the basic concepts ng withholding taxes.
Thank you, Ariane, for being with us here today. We really learned a lot, and we're really grateful that you took time to be with us today. Just to recap for all our viewers today, that not all are subject pala to withholding tax. I guess that's something new that we can learn in today's session. And yun nga, that the individual income tax rate is 0% to 35, and it really differs depending on taxable income. And you also discussed regarding the minimum benefits, and a lot of it was also on a minimum wage earner, and this remains exempt from income tax on the following: basic minimum wage, holiday, overtime pay, night differential, and hazard pay, and the like. So, ang dami kong natutunan ngayon. Actually, wala pa yung mga recap ko sa lahat ng diniscuss mo today, Ariane. Actually, since this is a new format, we want everybody to please join the UnionBank GlobalLinker Project LUCA discussion group. Kasi for sure, Ariane, may mga questions sila for you. And since this is yun nga, a recorded session, we'd like to encourage our viewers to please type their questions. And if they have other clarifications, to type it in the Project LUCA discussion group. And hopefully, you can, our Ariane can answer it, and our other accounting experts can answer the queries of our viewers. So there, I guess my final message to everyone right now is we really thank you for taking time to, watch this webinar. I hope that all of you were able to learn in this webinar, and we hope that you'll be able to adapt in this new normal. I know that times are really hard right now, and but the number one lesson that we've all learned is to really adapt, and to adapt to the changes, not just of technology but of the world. So in UnionBank GlobalLinker, we really do make your business dreams make your business dreams into a reality. And part of our advocacy and part of our goal is really to help our SMEs pivot and digitize their businesses. So from brick and mortar, we really want them to become digital, right? And to tap as many SMEs as we can, and to help as many SMEs as we can. So again, this is Marga Belusilio, Bank from Home, and stay safe to all. We hope to see you in our upcoming webinars. Thank you.